All right, today we're jumping into a story that's got it all. A bit of scientific rebellion, a huge cosmic mystery, and one brilliant mind basically standing up and challenging the entire consensus. This is a wild one. The source material for this whole explainer kicks off with this really powerful metaphor. The idea here is that the biggest, most revolutionary ideas, they're not always killed by brute force. Nah, they're killed by ridicule, by a simple sneer. It's a heck of a warning, and it totally sets the stage for everything that follows. So, if the world of science has these dragons, these giant, uncomfortable, potentially world-changing truths, who's the one person brave enough, or maybe just heretical enough, to actually face them down? Well, that person is Dr. Avi Loeb. He's a towering figure in astrophysics who lit a match and started an absolute firestorm by suggesting that we might have already found evidence of extraterrestrial technology. But here's the thing. Before we can even begin to understand the heresy, we have to understand the man's authority. I mean, why did his words, his ideas, send a shockwave through the entire scientific community? Yeah, this is absolutely crucial to get. Loeb isn't some outsider or a rogue scientist working from his garage. He's a giant in his field, operating right from the very heart of the scientific establishment. And look at these credentials. We're talking about the former longest-serving chair of Harvard's astronomy department. This isn't just a resume. The source calls it his armor of authority. And that's exactly what it is. It's the very thing that lets him challenge the system without just being laughed out of the room. And that gets right to the heart of it. Because it's him. Because of his position, his hypothesis suddenly has this immense weight that it just wouldn't have otherwise. It forces his colleagues to stare a possibility right in the face, a possibility most of them would much rather ignore. And this wasn't just some random, wild idea he threw out there. No way. He followed the scientific method to a T. He calculated the data, he published the findings, he defended the logic, and then, and this is the kicker, he put his money where his mouth is. He founded the Galileo Project to actually go out and look for more evidence. This is dissent in action. So, this brings us to the real philosophical core of this whole conflict. See, this isn't really just about one weird object flying through our solar system. It's about how science itself works, or sometimes, how it doesn't. Loeb actually gives a name to the mindset he's up against. He calls it extraordinary conservatism. And it's basically this, a stubborn refusal to even look for signs of life. Because, let's be honest, it's just easier, it's safer, and it's way less risky for your career to just assume everything out there is another boring rock. You can really see this whole debate as a kind of primal battle. On one side, you've got pure, unadulterated curiosity, the guts to face a true unknown unknown. And on the other side, you've got the comfort of the group, the safety of consensus, or it's better to just invent a familiar explanation, like a new kind of comet, than to consider something truly extraordinary. Now, according to the source, this conservative mindset really shows up in two major failures. First, there's the imposition of familiarity. Trying to cram the data into a box it just doesn't fit in. And second, and maybe this is the bigger one, is a simple failure of imagination. It's this arrogant, human-centric idea that we must be the smartest things in the entire universe. But Loeb's idea didn't just stay in those stuffy academic journals. Oh no, it leaked out, it exploded into the public sphere, and that, my friends, changed absolutely everything. While all the scientific details were super complex, the story the media told was simple, and it was powerful. This quote just nails it. The phrase alien technology is intoxicating. It's an electric, instantaneous idea that the public was just primed and ready to hear. And the difference in reactions was just night and day. The scientific establishment, they were hesitant, right? They were motivated by a fear of looking silly. But the public and the media, they reacted with total fascination, which, it turns out, became an incredibly powerful catalyst. And you see, that media firestorm, it wasn't just noise. It had a tangible, real-world impact. It generated the funding, the buzz, the momentum that Loeb needed to just sidestep all the institutional red tape and start his own research project. Okay, so to really understand the deeper stuff at play here, our source material takes a fascinating and pretty unexpected turn. It starts looking at this whole conflict through an esoteric, yogic, and even a neurophysical lens. It's pretty wild.
So first, the source connects Loeb's visionary stance to the Ajna chakra. You might know it as the third eye. In this framework, it's the center of intuition. It's the ability to see beyond this simple, it's a rock, or it's not a rock, and to just defy all that social pressure to conform.
And in complete contrast, you have the media's reaction. This gets linked to the Swadhisthana, or the sacral chakra. This is seen as the center of emotion, of sensation. And that explains that gut-level, intoxicating, emotional rush people got from the alien technology story. It completely bypasses any kind of intellectual breakdown. And it even gets down to the level of brain states. This neurophysical argument frames the whole thing in terms of brainwaves. So Loeb's approach is like high gamma. That's a state of creative, open, out-of-the-box problem solving. The conservative response, that's high alpha, which is all about sticking to the patterns you already know. It's basically a form of cognitive self-preservation.
So what's the big takeaway here? Where do we go from here? Well, the source wraps things up by turning the lens right back on us, asking us to think about how dissent, how having an unpopular opinion works in our own lives. And this is such a powerful question to ask yourself. Just like Avi Loeb, when you're the one challenging the group, what's your armor of authority? What do you rely on? Is it cold, hard facts? Is it personal experience? Is it just pure logic? And this one here gets at the big lesson from that whole media firestorm. We all have complex ideas, right? But how do you make them simple enough, compelling enough to actually cut through all the noise and get people to listen? And we're going to end on this final, really thought-provoking question. If you had to take your most important, most challenging, most dissenting idea and boil it down to a single powerful headline, what would it be? Definitely something to think about.